Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the garage, welcome to another beautiful day here in Pennsylvania. Today was just awesome out. It was like 65, 70 degrees all day. I've been in a short sleeve shirt working out in the yard, cleaning up the yard. As you guys can see, I live in the woods, which I'm sure you guys all know, but that means there's a lot of sticks and limbs and stuff throughout the winter that end up dropping. You got to clean up, just tons of yard work to do. But we got a lot accomplished today. Had a big burn, had a big fire, burn all that crap up. If you follow me on the Instagram, which if you don't, please do, at TurboTom, you will see in my story a big fire. So might have caught one of the other trees next to the fire on fire a little bit, but it's okay. It's just scorched. So anyway, back to the truck stuff. So I want to take this second to first show you guys this truck in the sun. If you didn't watch the previous video completely, this is what we got. These square holes that we did are definitely, I'm definitely growing to love them. The look here in the sun, to me, that is awesome. Just having the intercooler out there in the open, no extra stuff, that's all you can see. In the sun, it looks awesome. I will admit, at night when it's dark and you can't see that, it does look a little odd, but like that, I mean, let me put a comment down below what you think about that, because I think it looks phenomenal. I'm very glad we chose to go that route with that. So anyway, on to today's work. So today we are going to be working out of this box right here. So FedEx just dropped this off, and let's open it up and see what we got. Here we have some Vibrant Performance 12AN, braided hose. We have another little piece, and we have a bunch of miscellaneous 12AN fittings. We got a couple 90s, a 45, a couple straights, all that kind of good stuff. So this comes from Summit Racing. We also got a $100 wine voucher. Yeah, I don't drink wine, so anyhow, I'm kind of surprised. This is from Summit Racing, but there's no stickers. Summit Racing always sends stickers. Not that I really need them or want them, but anyhow, so we have our Vibrant hose and our fittings. All that stuff is for our cooling system. So these are the lines and fittings so we can run the cooling for the head, which is, we're basically going to come out here, go into the pump, out of the pump, into the head. I don't know if we're going in the back of the head or in the front. Haven't decided yet. And then it's going to return to the top of the radiator here. So got all this stuff. Summit Racing, them and Jags, they're great. I mean, even with all the stuff that's going on right now, I still was able to get a package from them in a couple days. I mean, whenever that last video was, it was that long, till we got this stuff. What, 3, maybe 4 days, something like that. So yeah, always great to go there. They got a wide selection. That stuff usually ships the next day. Not that I'm being paid by Summit to say this. It's just great to have somebody with that kind of capacity where you can get stuff that quickly, even with all the stuff that's going on. So anyway, guys, that's enough jibber jabbering. Let me get the front clip off this bedside, and we will get to, well, installing all our stuff. So yeah, let's get this thing plumbed up. Maybe we'll even get some water in there. Oh, that's another thing. I had a couple guys comment in the comment section saying like, hey, what about the distilled water? What about Evans waterless coolant? And Evans waterless coolant, I looked into it. It is NHRA approved and all that, but if you read through their information about it, it does say it is as slippery as any glycol based coolant. So with that in mind, I'm going to go with just regular tap water to throw in there, because then we can fill it up no matter where we're at, whatever's going on. If we got to rip something apart, all we need is just normal water to fill it up. And I know using regular water, if a hose does blow out or something like that, they can clean the track up so much quicker. I don't know about like the Evans waterless coolant if they can do that. So running just water, the whole thought process is if there is an issue, they can clean the track up quicker and everybody can get back to racing. So we're just going to use regular water. All right, let's get to it and get this thing plumbed up. All right, guys, so we are on to our last fitting. This is going to be from the radiator to the coolant pump. I just figured I'd go over this with you guys. I know we've done AN lines before. Pretty much everybody on the internet has. You look up how to do AN lines, you'll find a ton of content. So I wanted to go over this because this is the nylon braided, because I wanted the black, next to the black valve cover and all that. But as you can see, it gets kind of frayed up and all that. I've never worked with this particular stuff before, and this is actually one of the factory ends. I didn't cut this. This was one of the ones that was in the cap from Vibrant, but just kind of moving it through the truck and all that, it's gotten frayed, and when you cut it, it gets frayed. So my first cut I used these cutters. They're not big enough to go all the way through, and then when I was done, I ended up with something similar to this. So I was like, all right, that's not going to work. So then I resorted to the grinder, which is what we've done before, and what I did was I taped it up, but I used duct tape. The duct tape is way too sticky, because when I took the duct tape off, it pulled it and then started fraying the line just like this. So what I've found on our fittings is to use masking tape and then cut it with the grinder and then put it in there, but in between time, don't screw around, just get it right into your fitting, because you start laying it down, stuff like that, you're liable to fray this hose. Like I said, this is the nylon braided. I went with it just because I wanted the black line. Let me get our fitting and we'll proceed forward. All right, so our hose end actually comes in two pieces. There's the one that connects to the tapered AN fitting, and then there is the end that actually goes on the hose here. So what you're going to do is chalk that up in your vise, and then that way we can just go from cutting right into that. So I marked this. We have our line. We'll put a little masking tape on there. And then we would proceed to cut it with our grinder. So, kind of get all the boogies and stuff off of there while you still got the tape on. And then also, if you were doing this for like transmission cooler lines or something, you definitely want to run some fluid through your fittings and all that, because after using the grinder, there's just a lot of debris. For our setup going through the head, I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but anyhow. take our masking tape off, and then we have a nice, you know, pretty decent outcome there. So then we're going to put it in a fitting. And I like to start it on an angle and then just make sure I got all my braiding in there. And we're going to kind of push and turn. Ugh. Get off. A little more. All right, so what you're looking for is that this hose is right up against the threads. Now, if you guys can see that, I don't know if you can, but the hose is actually hanging out a little bit over here. So what I like to do is before I go to put the fitting in, I just take my little screwdriver and kind of push it back. So that way it makes starting our fitting much easier. So then we'll take a little penetrating lubricant and just kind of lube this sucker up. And then when we get our fitting started, we're going to want to push up on our hose, make sure our vise is nice and clamped, and then start threading it in. So what this does is the fitting is actually threading into this body, and then as it continues down, it actually threads into the rubber of the AN fitting. So these straight ones are a little easier. I can just use my socket, you know, deep well socket to run this thing down. The 90s and whatnot, got to use a wrench. And this is actually 1.25 inches for this 12AN. So if you have something bigger, the bigger it is, the bigger the wrench or the socket you're going to need. We're slipping out of our vise. Come on. And I also got my soft jaws on here. You can just take a piece of like aluminum and, you know, aluminum angle iron or something, put on here. But just trying not to mar the fittings up. You can buy stuff for these if you're doing AN fittings all the time. You know, like special AN wrenches, special AN, you know, jaws for the vise and all that kind of stuff. So then we have our AN fitting done, or we have our AN fitting done. All that it did the last couple times there. Was trying to twist the tubing or whatever, the line. Not a big deal, but yeah. So that's how you do it. It's nothing real complicated. Like I said, there's all kinds of specialty tools, but you can do it with normal stuff you have. Not everybody might have 1.25 inch wrench. So anyway, let's get this installed and move on from there. So we got all of our lines ran. I actually lucked out and I only had to use the 20-foot piece. So we actually have 5 foot here that we can return to Summit. When I measured it out, I think I measured like 22 feet or something like that. So it was like 2 foot off, but I was really adding a lot to my measurements because I didn't want to run out. So we got more than enough hose out of the 20-foot section. I think we had like 3 or 4 inches left over. It worked out pretty nicely. So it comes out of the bottom of the radiator into the pump and then goes in the back of the head. And then from the top of the head, it comes out and returns to the radiator. So all of our lines are ran, they're secured. We do need to make like a bracket because down here on the bottom one, So if you guys can see, it's actually rubbing on the petcock to drain the thing. So I want to make a bracket or something just to hold this line out and keep it from rubbing. Other than that, the one coming out of the bottom into the pump's good and everything else is good. You know, by cocking this pump a little bit, we are actually able to miss this bar for our radiator mount. So then in the front of the truck, we also need to come up with a mount or something back here to keep this thing away from the exhaust manifold, but also to, I kind of want this thing to go straight on here, which I know you guys probably can't see because it's black on black, but I want it to be coming straight out, and I also want it to be away from the exhaust manifold here in the back. I mean, it's got clearance now, but just something else to hold it and keep it from flopping around. So the next thing is to fill the cooling system. And to fill the cooling system, we're actually going to be using this Snap-on Rad Kit Plus. My father had brought this over so we could fill it. But the other thing with filling this, like this will pull vacuum on the cooling system. But the nice thing is it will let us know if we have any leaks. Like we bought our radiator, we bought this radiator used. So hey, it might have a hole in it. We don't know for sure. So this will pull vacuum, and if it holds vacuum, we know all our fittings are good, we know the radiator's good, all that. So basically we're gonna hook our compressor up to here, and then we can hit the button to pull a vacuum, and we'll pull a vacuum on a whole cooling system, and then we'll let it sit for a little bit, make sure our vacuum gauge, I think it says we want 24 to 26 inches of vacuum, and let it sit. If it stays there, we know we don't have any leaks. Then this other end of the hose with the little filter on it, that has this ball valve, so then we can open the ball valve and it will fill the cooling system. Once we don't have any more vacuum, the cooling system is full. So we'll get this all put on, we'll do that whole setup, and we will have coolant in this engine. So it's the first time we'll have water in this thing here at the house. So when Freedom had it on the dyno, they had water in it. So yeah, anyway, let's get to filling this thing up. So you insert it in the radiator, then you're going to tighten this down to get your seal. Make it good and snug. Then I had to make a little adapter, and we can hook our shop air up. All right, then we need water. We got 5 gallons of water. Then a little less than 5 gallons. Put our little hose in here. So we're going to want to pull vacuum on this setup. Push this button. All right, so I screwed up there in a couple of ways. I had the valve open for the water, which it needs to be closed right now to pull the vacuum. And the other thing was I still had the barb fitting on for our expansion tank. Well, we don't have an expansion tank currently. Like the instructions for this thing say to fill the expansion tank up like a quarter of the way, or you know, wherever the cold fill part is for it. So I took that out. We're just going to cap that off. So basically it'll be full up to here. We'll just have to put a little water in our expansion tank, which it really doesn't need because we're going to have this sucker full. So now I got that all sorted out. We can press this button and pull a vacuum. All right, guys, so I don't know what was caught, what wasn't. Apparently my memory card was pretty full on the camera, but also we had some issues with this setup. So originally we couldn't pull vacuum because we had the hose barb still on there for this, but I could feel it pulling like when I put my finger over it. So we replaced it with a temporary plug. But I would pull vacuum on this. I even went so far as to put my clamp on there so I could run around and check, because we were not able to get the gauge to move from where it's at now. But if you look at it now, it is right about, you know, between the 5 and the 0 pounds or inches of vacuum. So I think the gauge is actually bad on this thing. So when I was pulling all that vacuum for a while, the compressor was running all this. When I took this thing off, there was vacuum, like it was stuck in there. So that made me realize that, hey, the gauge probably is no good. So what I did was I pulled vacuum for like 2 minutes and then filled this line with water and then pulled vacuum again just to make sure we got all the air out of everything. And then we stuck our hose in here, or our hose was already stuck in here, and then we opened our valve all the way and it sucked what looks to be about 2.5 gallons of water out. So that seems like it should be about right. I don't know. I mean, really, we just have this and then our line's running up and it just fills the head. It's really not that much capacity. So we're gonna pull this lid off, which this is the highest point of the cooling system. So theoretically, when we fill this up even with a hose, it should fill everything up. This is just helping us check for leaks, which I check for leaks, no leaks. So when we take this off, there should be coolant all the way to the top. And yes, there is. If you guys can see that, I don't know if you can. Put this thing down. So yeah, we got coolant right there. So our cooling system is filled to capacity. We will have to get a, you know, one of them expansion thingies. Yeah, we're gonna have to get an expansion tank for this. It's something I certainly overlooked, but our cooling system is full. When we get our expansion tank, we will certainly turn our pump on and let everything circulate, which should work some more air out of it. Was this setup necessary for what we're doing? I don't think so. I think we could have gotten by with just, you know, filling it with water and then turning our pump on and all that. But Dad offered it to me and said, hey, it'd be a great way to check. Well, Dad, I think you need a new gauge, bud. I think this one's shot. Even though this thing looks brand new, so I don't know what would have happened. It must have gotten rattled around or something. So anyway, guys, our cooling system is now full of water. That's just another thing checked off the boxes. We're running out of stuff, which is a good problem to have. Like I said, we ran all our lines. We need to make a couple brackets like on the engine to keep that thing off the exhaust manifold and also make it look pretty when it's ran. And also down here on the rad itself, you know, down below, I want to get that away from that petcock, the drain petcock, just so it's not rubbing and all that kind of stuff. But everything's ran, everything's good. I'm happy with it. So like I said, we need an expansion tank and then the cooling system's done. So we're really knocking things out of the park here. I mean, when we look at the truck, you figure we got our bedsides, our doors are done, our windows are all done, our front clip is done, our intercooler piping is almost done. We need to add our blow-off valve over the other side. The only big thing I can think of right now, off the top of my head, is wiring. And you guys know I'm not really a fan. Yeah, wiring sucks. So we got to wire. We got to wire our transmission cooler. We got to wire our radiator fan. We got to wire our coolant pump down there. We have to run our gauges. We have the Edge CTS2. We got to run that. Bunch of little wiring to do, which wiring sucks. I don't like it, but whatever. Anyway, so we got the cooling system ran. We got, you know, it's plumbed, it's full. We're good to go there. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Please like the video, subscribe down below. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Get out in your garage, get the wrenching on your truck,